Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Hip Hop Babies.
Yes, sir, ski.
It's your host, DeadLeigh, host of the most. I got my boy Ray with me, as always. Man, we laying down our life for y'all on this one, bro. We got that new JPEGMAFIA album review. I laid down my life for you. A little dramatic, you know. Feel like our boy is going through it a little bit, you know.
The ending threw me off. I mean, we're going to get into it, but the vibe does switch up. It's up and down on this.
Nah, for real. I mean, the opening track is called I Scream This in the Mirror Before I Interact with Anyone. What are we doing, bro? That's the thing about JPEG, man. I feel like he knows the things to say to get somebody who is terminally online, you know. Give it a chuckle, bro. Like, you know, this isn't like your everyday average Joe type of music. Well, I mean, maybe it is, depending on who your average Joe is. So he's got an edge to it, man. So he's got something different. Let's get into it. This is
Yeah, let's get into it, right? But you saying, you know, he always does something different, and that's what draws me to his music. A lot of the times, you know, like going into this album, right, you think you know what you're going to expect, especially with the singles MIEDO and Don't Rely on Other Men. Those two kind of gave you a picture of what the album's going to sound like. And when you get the whole thing, he kind of went from what I expected a little bit. Some of the sounds, some of the beat changes, the aggressiveness on here kind of reminded me of like Veteran or some of his older projects. And it was cool to see him kind of return to that a bit because he's been on a run and he's been working with what? Danny Brown, you know, Scaring the Hoes, or even his own projects, LP. He's been dropping these projects that we've liked. Scaring the Hoes was my favorite album last year. And I think LP was my favorite album the year before that. When he's dropping one of my favorite, if not my favorite project of the year. This one's another one I'm really fucking with. I'm really
yeah. No, I mean, I am too. I just feel like just got to be stated. You know, somebody who is out of pocket a lot of times. You know, you get called out for it, bro. Sometimes you're doing too much, bro. But
yeah,
you know, what is he doing right on this one? I just think that, you know, all the different stuff that he throws at you is still his style. Like, it's not changing artistically to like anything that's like new for him. I feel like it's just like different sounds and different arrangements and maybe like a little bit different like genre fusion. He did like some like electronic.
Which
Y'all
song?
know me, bro.
About,
I'm a hip hop guy, bro. Like, but like sometimes I feel like it was like really like or like house or whatever, and he's just doing like these like little refrain loops, you know, that's just trying to like get people to dance. But then at other times, you know, he's just like screaming in the mic like violently, like, you know, it's just like loud, you know, you're supposed to be thrashing to it. And then at other times he bringing you down, he's just talking to you, bro, giving you, you know, a little rundown of like what's life like right now, you know. So it's a very unique album. Very unique listening experience.
You were right when we started. This isn't a conventional rap album. It's definitely deep in the alternative scene, even though JPEG has a little bit of a name for itself. You know, it's crazy to see him work with Ye on Vultures, right? And he even said he worked on Vultures too. So he's obviously building connections with people who are established or like, you know, top tier artists in the game. Because people are noticing, man, the production is crazy. JPEG started as a producer. You could kind of tell that sometimes with the beats on here. From the start, he says they're going to put him in the Guinness for the beat switches. And there's a bunch on here. Pretty much every track almost has a moment where the beat switches or he has a breakdown. Like you said, like it's like you're thrashing or it's like a dance breakdown almost. It's Dark and Hell is Hot is a big example of that. That Brazilian funk, the glitchy, you know, hard-hitting bass and stuff, and it keeps going throughout that whole track. Perfect example of that, you know, the beat switches, him rapping over an unconventional beat that's not usually like hip-hop, but basically turning it into a hip-hop song with the flow and what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He'll reach and start going for like some rock star sounds, but he's still talking about not conventional, but he's still talking about like what you would hear from a rapper. And I think that's what a lot of times make JPEG different. You know, the flows and the voices that he goes with kind of breaks him out of that rap box.
The sounds and like, you know, the inflections, screaming, but not like losing the flow or like the cadence, you know what I'm saying? Like still like fitting within the spoken word / rap style, but like also being able to be a little rock with it. I mean, about as good as we can get, man. I mean, I feel like the only other person that is capable of doing something like this would be maybe like Playboi Carti. It's kind of crazy range to have, bro. And it's just for like him to like be so unique that like he could only be like touched by like one other artist in that lane. You know, I just feel like that's insane. You know, like what rock rap is, this like fusion of like rock and rap has become since like Linkin Park was making shit with Jay-Z, bro. It's like an insane escalation. It's getting way better, man. It's just fitting more seamlessly as time goes on, and he's one of the pioneers. Like I was saying, like Kenny Mason, Denzel Curry, Playboi Carti. Those are the type of names that come up and are in this conversation. And it's a pretty exclusive group. You know, props to him for, you could not get this album from another person. And that's probably the most awarding statement you can give to it. Like you said, producer first and then like a artist on top of that. And it really shows, you know, it's just like that full creative control to do whatever you want at any moment. Just gives you that like element of surprise that like I'm never gonna have a stale moment on this album. I'm never gonna listen to this album and be like, this sounds inauthentic. It just sounds like somebody's baby. And I'm like, damn, that's his whole world right there, you know? So I just, a lot of passion put into it. Probably one of the best albums I've heard this year. So it'll be up there. It'll be up there. I don't know, man. You just gotta be in a certain head state to listen to it.
I feel what you're saying though, because I think it's a unique listening experience, especially when you're first listening to it. I feel like he gets you kind of comfortable with, you know, a part of the album. Basically, after New Black History, which I love, you know, Vince Staples showing up on his Big Fish Theory stuff, rapping over some distorted robotic ass beat, but using that Future sample again, that 9mm, my brothers, my keeper was serving that ether. That was tough, the way they flipped that. When you go after that part, it gets you comfortable. And then when it goes to the second part of JPEG Ultra and then either on or off the drugs, it switches. It's almost like a part 2 of the album, I feel like. I think was a cool choice to make. I think he did it on purpose. It seems like, I don't know, it's almost like maybe he recorded that other part later or something. It feels like he had an idea with the sequencing, and I like what he did, because when he did do that, it did surprise me. It did shock me. Either On or Off the Drugs is probably my favorite song on here, if not one of my favorite songs of the year, just because when I first was listening to the album, that stuck out to me. JPEG has made emotional / like talking about love tracks or talking about stuff like that before with like Bodyguard or something like that. But that was a big step. That sample, we could definitely get into that too. The AI use, you know what I'm saying? He used the AI version of a Future song and flipped it. And it was crazy. I mean, it's kind of weird. We're getting into that time where, you know, we're going to have to get used to artists just using AI and just dealing with it, right? I mean, it's a part of music now. We saw it in the latest rap beef, you know, the biggest artists tried to make a whole track using AI, you know? So I will say this, that was one of the best uses of AI I have heard so far, you know, in music. And again, him doing stuff like that, challenging even me as a person who loves music, you know, we're seeing AI being used more and we debate whether it's cool or not, you know? And he's challenging that in this album. He's challenging, just like we said, like hip-hop norms. You know, he's breaking all the rules sometimes. Some of these tracks, hook-wise, they don't really have a real hook, or the hook is kind of like bare bones, and then he's just rapping. Sometimes he doesn't have an extra verse. Sometimes he does. Sometimes it's only, you know, 2 verses, 1 verse, and then a beat breakdown for hella long. So it's all over the place, right?
It's just kind of like feeling like he's going with ideas and just seeing how long he can go with it, and then when it breaks down, it breaks down, and then it doesn't really matter because, you know, you got the good part out of it, and you know, you're gonna hear it. So it's like just really unpolished at times is what it feels like, but that's kind of like what he goes for. The whole point of like Scaring the Hoes, that album, was like they did it on the SP404, right? And it had that like real like rugged sound to it, like really like palpable sound, you know. So he's just really good with like picking like different mediums and like different like ways of like displaying the sound. Like it's never like super polished, mixed and mastered, you know, mega hit. You're never gonna get something like that. It's like one of the rawest forms of like human expression. You know, I just feel like that's what I get when I listen to one of these albums every time. This isn't some like corporate entity trying to sell me on something or something, you know, like not something that's going to just weird me out while I'm thinking to it, you know, even though it is some stuff that like he's saying, I'm like, why is he saying this, bro? But like, that's just him. So it's like, you can't even judge it. You just got to take it for what it is.
And he's kind of cleaned that up. I think in the past, I think it was cool. Like I brought up Don't Rely on Other Men. He had Freaky on here and he used to work with Freaky back in the day. So he's obviously still connected to his roots, but he's cleaned it up. I think at one point, you know, he was on a label pretty much with LP, right? He dropped the one that was dropped on streaming services, and he dropped the offline version with certain samples and certain stuff that he couldn't get cleared. The label was having issue with putting certain songs on that album, right? So he basically put them out himself later. So that tells you JPEG is an artist. He doesn't need a label. I don't understand why he was on a label like that in the first place. Maybe, you know, to bring more awareness, you know, maybe he needed some type of support. Maybe it was just like, even if it was just a distribution thing, you know, he's the type of artist that is definitely better on his own. You know, making the moves, putting out what he wants to put out, working with who he wants to work with. He displays that perfectly on here. Straight out the get-go on the first track, if I was an NBA player, I'd be Dillon Brooks, but worse. Dillon Brooks, and this is what I say, as someone who's been watching the NBA for years, Dillon Brooks is a role player that when he's on your team, you love him. He does everything right on defense. He might not shoot the ball the best. He might be a little ugly with it. You know, he might play. It's a little too aggressive sometimes, a little bit too much in your face. But when he is doing what he's supposed to do and is playing his role to the optimum level, he's a perfect role player. He could be a nuisance, though. And I think JPEG, if you don't like his music, I would understand why he would annoy you, why he would be a nuisance. Because this is loud. This is unpolished at times. It switches up on you sometimes. You might not be used to that because you're more used to, like, you know, radio music. But when you get used to what he does and when you get, you know, multiple listens with this project, I think you'll get more from it.
Yeah, that's just kind of how it's always been. I mean, when you first was trying to get me to listen to him, I was just like, nah. You know, that's kind of everybody's reaction. I just feel like it's like, why would I get into this? And then he just does it time and time again. I don't know what it is, but he does it. And he does it well. Leaves you coming back for more. So he's entering his prime. You know, you got Vince Staples on here. Vince Staples, he got Buzzy Lee, you got Denzel Curry. You know, he's working with all the right people. Everybody he wants to. I feel like he has like perfectly found his lane. It's just working for him. It's just hitting on all cylinders. So I can't say anything more than like it just comes off as extremely authentic and intentional. Like everything is very intentional. That just happens when you're producing and mastering your own shit. It's such a talent and such a creative like tool to have to be able to do all the things at once and just do it well. Like that's so crazy. Considering like, you know, the stuff it would take to make like a Graduation back in the day or Late Registration, you know, how many people were working on those albums to make them sound that good. And now you got one dude in a room just making, you know, songs like either on or off drugs. You know, it's just crazy.
Crazy. Shit, I'll be right there. Crazy. Getting the sample. That's an old school R&B sample by the group named Jade. I'm like, where would you think to just pull that out like that and put that right there? I'll be singing so nice. And he makes it sound so fresh on the track. Keeps rapping. The references, you know, he's a nerdy guy. He's a funny guy. That's what also makes his music kind of endearing over time. You get used to his humor. He has dark humor or he says a lot of out-of-pocket things, like you said, but the more you listen, the more it's not really out-of-pocket in his world, right? When he brings you into his album, it's like, okay, I'm kind of expecting him to say something. A funny moment on this album was when he said, Amber Rose, the way I be spitting these mega raps. That's recent. You know, we've seen Amber Rose come out and really support Donald Trump. There's a bunch of them. I brought up the Dillon Brooks one earlier. You know, there's a bunch of them on here like that where he's bringing up something that people were talking about online or just, you know, talking about in general. And he's putting it in your face and making a joke out of it or putting his own spin on it. And I love it every time for the most. Some of the lines don't connect as much. Some of them are a little too crazy. I think the Aaron Carter one, you know, I think that one was funny, but that's out of pocket, you know, but it's so crazy you can't turn away from it sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, like you really just said something like that. And even the whole track, that whole track, you know, big booty hoes, like, what? Like sampling Fortnite on here? Like, where are you getting these ideas
it's
and
only
putting them in perfect
it's
place
only
every
working.
time?
It's only working like that because he's aware of how stupid the shit he's saying.
Yes.
Like it's not some idiot just talking. He'll be saying stuff just to like piss people off half the time. I feel like that's what makes it funny, but it's very intentional. You know, very. He knows that he is terminally online and that it affects him. He has a funny perspective on certain things. You know, like just the references, like you're saying, like you wouldn't get them unless you're on Twitter or TikTok or whatever. So
You know, people try to say JPEG, only appeals to certain people, or JPEG is really weird. And what I will say is that his beats and some of his, not a lot of rappers are gonna do songs like Jihad Joe or Exmilitary. I love those tracks, especially Exmilitary. Shout out to the Death Grips reference. And he's an ex-veteran, so he double entendre, right? People used to say he sounds like Death Grips, so he's making fun of that. And on that track, he was yelling and doing all that. But when you listen to what he's saying, especially on that track, that's like some of the best rapping I've heard from JPEG. I think Ex-Military was the best rapping. It had some of the best like switches. Jihad Joe, that one grew on me. A lot of rock, guitar, aggressive sounds, vulgar display of power. But the lines, when you go into them, are like any other rapper sometimes. Kimber, Celtic, Rockford, Draco, these are few of my favorite bands. Like, talking about guns. He'll talk about the stereotypical rapper things, but he makes them JPEG, and that's what makes it endearing, at least to me. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah,
he'll talk about pulling up on you and messing with your hoe, or you was messing with his hoe, so he's fucking with your hoes, but like he does it in a way that's unique, and he does it in a way that's entertaining because of his spin on it. So you brought up Buzzy Lee, like working. I found out that's Steven Spielberg's daughter, bro. Like, how the fuck do you get Steven Spielberg's daughter out here just to sing, do that angelic ass like vocal thing on "Don't Put Anything on the Bible," and then the second part is just a beat switch, and then you're just rapping about some shit on there. Like,
I don't know. He's weirdly like Christian too, or something.
Yes,
though. Like
the Christian stuff that always pops up in the titles, the covers, everything. This is a person who's had to deal with a lot of religious guilt. Even the way he talks about or like mentions religious things, I like that the way he does that. Adds another layer. 5'9" knocking down hoes as tall as Angel Reese. I don't care. Like what? Again, hey, that's kind of short, right? But JPEG don't care. He gonna talk his shit.
What are we talking about? 5'9" kind of short, bro.
Maybe. Well, compared to Angel Reese, she's 6'3". She's like
yeah.
Just cultural references. You get it all on here. Now, is this my favorite JPEG project? I don't think so, but I'm enjoying it a lot. I recommend it, especially if you're into alternative hip hop. Check this out. I think it's gonna be in my top 10. Probably in my top 5. We'll see. You know me. It's like you with Future. Yeah. It's like you with Future. It's gonna drop. It's gonna just jump to number 1 or 2 out of nowhere,
shit! Bro. Yeah, this nigga Young Thug drop, bro. Oh, bro, that's your top album, huh, bro?
Am I lying though? Also, I wanted to say before we get into our top 3 tracks, favorite tracks, Denzel and JPEG are a really good duo. Whether it's him working on the beat on one of the songs on Melt My Eyes. Which song was that? John Wayne, I think.
Yeah.
To Vengeance, to this. They are really good at that aggressive, noisy rap. If JPEG is going to make another collab project or, maybe produce for someone more, they should work together more. I really like JPEG Ultra. It's dope that they did a video for it. And I just think that, they really complement each other well. Because just like Denzel, I feel like JPEG has gotten better at controlling being aggressive. I feel like he used to overdo it sometimes. While now he's, he knows how to balance it. And Denzel had to learn that too. So I feel like when they get together, it's funny and it's like hard hitting. So I hope they work together more. Yeah.
Yep. The phone call on Unlocked, that was JPEG on the other line.
Yep.
Yep. Y'all didn't know that. So, we've been waiting for these collabs, bro. We cherishing every one, bro. Denzel, JPEG would definitely hit.
More collabs.
I kind of wish that they had collabed sooner, back when Denzel was like more lost and angry.
Yeah.
Now he's kind of like cool. Like a happy guy. I love that for him.
Besides Denzel Curry, though, I would like to see more collabs, more production credits. like on other albums. You know, JPEG, when he worked with Red Veil, I think last year or this year, it was dope. So, you know, hopefully he can, you know, branch out more and start working with more people, even though he's such a unique sound and a vibe. I think when he does work with people and it works, it's usually a really good song. So, yeah, don't be afraid to reach out and maybe work with more people like that, you know? I would like to see more features on a JPEG album or, you know, on other people's albums, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he was on the Red Veil project.
Yeah.
Black Enough.
Black Enough? Yeah.
And then Kingdom Heart Keys before that. All right, man. Top 3 tracks, bro.
My top 3, number 1, Either On or Off the Drugs. Number 2, I'll Be Right There. And then number 3, I'm going to go Sin Miedo.
Pretty good. I mean, I got one and the same as you. So either
what's yours? What's yours?
Either On or Off Drugs is one of them. Obvious reasons. Just a really, you know, it's a beautiful track, man. Next one is probably Exmilitary, you know. I really like it after the breakdown. Remind me of some like kind of like what I was saying before with like Linkin Park and stuff. You know how like they would have like those little synths and shit in the background. Kind of like that, just a little bit. I don't know. Kind of threw me back to that. And then last one, man, you know, New Black History, man. You know, we got Future on here. We got Vince Staples on here, man. What else do you need, bruh? Probably one of the best verses on there was the Vince Staples verse out of the entire album. He just commands all the attention in the room when he pops up. Every time, man. I thought they had some good chemistry. Wouldn't have expected that collab, but love it a lot. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, same. And I'm surprised you liked Exmilitary that much. That was a unique pick. I would not expect that from you just because of the, you know, aggressiveness. But yeah, you were right. The beat switches. I think that's one of the longer tracks on here too. But he was the whole track going
5 minutes,
lyrically, vocally. Yeah, it was crazy. So
all right, man, we're gonna wrap this thing up. Thank y'all so much for watching this. Make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, you hit that bell. You see us when we pop up on your screen because you know that we gonna come with the most fire projects to review, opinions, link to, you know, the JPEG album. Listen to it, please. Thank you for this album. Great album, bro. We always reviewing you when you pop up just because of how you pushing this whole thing forward every time. Love y'all. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Shout out to DeadLeigh. Excellent hosting this episode. You know how it is. Shout out to JPEG. Another dope album. What you got going on is special. This album is another one. To everybody watching, thank you. Shout out to y'all. Hold it down. Appreciate all the love and support. With that being said, peace.